however, that Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Well, there really was no doubt before this game. But what this game did is it just solidified his place on Mount Rushmore. Obviously, I would put him by himself based on what he's been able to accomplish over his tenure. And I would like to also add Bill Belichick to that as well, because without Bill and his mindset and his philosophy and coaching staff, it wouldn't have been possible.
It's right there. It's the crowning achievement of a. But I agree with. He didn't need this.
Yeah.
Now this is just the moment where you go, oh, so this is why he's so amazing. It's like every
cherry on
quality.
top.
Exactly.
Every
quality that makes him amazing, the best of all time, was on display in this comeback, which is why I believe that this is just a crowning achievement. There was no doubt before.
Yeah, look, it left no doubt at this point. I think that if you had any doubt whatsoever, you saw the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history, down 25, which, by the way, he usurped his own record, which was a 10-point deficit.
Exactly.
So that just goes to show you what we're talking about. When guys are sitting here wondering how much more does he have left in the tank, it shows you he clearly has plenty left in the tank.
At 39.
This is the fifth time in a Super Bowl that he's led a comeback. The greatest ever was this time around by 25 points. But Julian Edelman said he never doubted in his quarterback. You've been in the trenches with Tom Brady. Was Edelman saying the truth, or was that
He was saying the truth. He was saying the truth. Sometimes when you're losing, and you're losing that magnitude, you could look at someone's body language and tell, okay, they're out of it. They're out of it. If you pay attention to Tom and the times that they did show him when the score was 28-3 and they were down, he hadn't changed. He
looked completely relaxed.
He looked relaxed.
Yeah,
everybody is paying attention to the top dog in a situation like that.
I almost thought it was weird because there were times where, you know, again, they're in the late in the third quarter, early in the fourth, they're down 28-3, and I'm thinking to myself, they need some urgency here. Why isn't there any? But they were completely cool, calm, and collected.
The same way.
The level of command and respect that Tom Brady, just his mere presence, demands, and you've been there in that locker room, you can't teach that.
No, you can't.
It's just something that he has. He is the captain. There's just no doubt about it.
The other
Greatest
thing,
of all time.
the motivation. He said he did it for his ailing mother, and that is one thing that cannot be overlooked. When your heart is in it and your mind is in it, Tom Brady just on a whole different level. All right, Super Bowl 51 was a tale of two halves. Why? Because it's the comeback boys. They jumped out the Falcons into a 25-point lead with quick strikes, but the Patriots never wavered. New England took over time in the possession. They made crucial plays on both sides of the ball, just as Atlanta's play calling came into question, and their exhausted defense was taken advantage of by Tom Brady, who ran twice as many offensive plays as Matt Ryan. So, Chad, did the Patriots win the Super Bowl, or did the Falcons choke?
I think the Patriots won the Super Bowl. Who's to say if the Falcons did do it? Let's say they went up 2. They went up 2 scores. Who's to say the Patriots don't still come back?
Up more than 2 scores.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because everyone's saying that the play calling based on what the Falcons did in the second half is the reason why they lost the game.
They just needed a field goal. They were in position. Those two.
If they had gotten that field goal, who's to say the Patriots still don't come back and win that game, though? Who's to say?
I say.
Matt says.
Because I think it's a choke job. Let me tell you something.
Come on.
With 3 minutes left, okay, the last 2 drives for the Atlanta Falcons, I think all of us could have done a better job playing Madden, to be honest with you. All right, at the end of the day, you have guys that are rushing for 6 yards a clip, Chad. Okay.
Wait,
hold on.
You were rushing for 6 yards.
Right, but they only rushed the ball 4 times once they were up 28-3. I would have liked to have seen them run some clock. And by the way, they were also snapping the ball with 15, 13, 12 seconds left on the clock. They needed to make sure they run that clock down between plays. They did a terrible job of managing the clock, terrible job of play selection, and then ultimately, in that situation, okay?
Nope.
They had an opportunity to run the ball at the 27-yard line. They got the penalties. They got all the things. Took themselves out of field goal range. That cost them. Matt Bryant was 97% within 50 yards. I mean, come on, man. It's the best kicker in the game this year.
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
11 points with 3 minutes to go.
George, it's
11 points, 3 minutes to go.
I get it. But the point here is that it's
okay.
not the point.
I've seen it happen.
Take it easy.
No, I'm not going to take it easy because I am so tired of people. You know what? You can't say, oh, Tom Brady is the best, and then give him no credit. This isn't.
But that's not giving him credit.
May I finish my point?
It can be nuance to this.
Okay.
I thought we were having a discussion.
What is the point?
Go ahead, Marley.
Because I have a point, and you're just not going to let me say it. So
but you asked me a question.
Please proceed.
You know, maybe am I allowed now? Okay.
Go.
All right. So my point being that if we call him the greatest of all time, and if we say, so this is plug and play NFL, so then anyone could have done it, You're taking credit away from what the Patriots accomplished. The Falcons could have made the exact same mistakes that they did, the exact same calls, and then you're saying that any other team would have done it.
No, the reality
I didn't say that.
No, absolutely, because you said the Falcons lost it.
The reality
so then
is...
this is the point. The point is that if it never happened before, it required a Hall of Fame quarterback. It required a 5-time Super Bowl winner. It required someone to control the clock over 20 minutes in the second half. It required Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots.
And what it required was time.
They won the game.
And it required time, which means the Falcons didn't allow the amount of time they needed to run within plays, and that gave the Patriots more of an opportunity to capitalize on the situation.
Clock management,
if it's not the Patriots,
play
they don't
calling,
win.
and the other thing, capitalizing on the plays. Julio Jones had an amazing catch that would have been the catch of the Super Bowl, and they were unable to capitalize and turn it into 3 points, Chad. Edelman made a huge difference because they capitalized on that.
I don't know what was more important or what was the most important play of that game, but it's a game of inches. And regardless, even with the scenario you just played out, I think even if they had great time management, clock management, I think the Patriots still would have found a way to come back and win, even with 3 minutes left. That's just how I feel.
All right. They were down 19 at the start of the fourth quarter. That's a tall order. All right. Advertisers, they paid $5 million each for 30-second spots, so they're sending a message. During the Super Bowl broadcast, while some kept it lighthearted per tradition, Budweiser, Airbnb, and Lumber 84 used their paid airtime to speak on social issues of acceptance and the story of immigration to America. The reaction has been polarizing and thought-provoking. So, Marley, how do you feel about Super Bowl commercials tackling social issues?
It's about money. I mean, it's brilliant marketing. We are talking about, Lumber 88, who we didn't know. 88? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know them. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know they existed. Obviously, I don't buy lumber, so probably the people who buy lumber would know they existed. But the point is that this is brilliant marketing. Now, there are issues, right, with tackling social issues, especially the ones, you try to capture a mood in the country at large. You try to capture how people are feeling, and they were very smart about it. People are talking about them today. Airbnb did it with diversity and everything that you're doing. So you know what? Good for them. But I do think that it's a great marketing move.
Right. When we talk about social issues, and there's one way you want to capitalize on having the eyes of all of America at the same time, when is the right time to plug something?
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
When you have to pay all those millions for 30 seconds.
Super Bowl commercial.
So, George, it was politically charged, even though it's not supposed to be. The read into those commercials is that it's a political age. How did you feel when you saw those commercials?
I think it's a conversation starter, and I think you're looking at a time, obviously, where there's a lot of people yelling, there's a lot of people screaming at each other in a lot of cases, and they're on different sides of the coin, right, depending on what social issue we're discussing. And I think that there should be less of the yelling and screaming and more of the conversation. Now, hopefully this gets that conversation going. It gives people an opportunity to just have it as opposed to just being more polar and taking their particular side.
One of the things that can be a little dangerous is obviously that there's going to be a lot of people who don't support what you stand for. But these companies are standing up there and saying, especially in this case with the lumber company, saying this is what we stand for. We stand for diversity. We stand for open doors. If you don't agree with us, that's okay. We're the ones who paid for this.
You know, the funny thing about it is we have these commercials. They're paying these big bucks for all these things. They're great conversation starters in environments like the Super Bowl. But what's the solution to the problem? Because we've been fighting and going through the same thing over and over, year after year, for an extremely long time.
So this is a country divided right now, and these are some of the issues that speak to what is going on. I think the Lumber 84 commercial had to be cut down because of the fact that they had a wall in there, and so even the fact that you're paying all that money, the 84 Lumber situation, they even had to give in to the broadcaster because they wouldn't allow their full message to be heard.
But the message, this isn't new, right? We've seen it, Coke has done it with their diversity commercials. We saw the Clydesdales kneeling at ground zero, which was a very emotional convention, tucking a little the heartstrings. We saw Google seeing people, hang the rainbow flags and all this stuff. So I think that if it is what you stand for, good for you. And then, I mean, you're the one paying for it.
I wish I had the money to have my own commercial. a love movement.
As an aside, by the way, the commercials were terrible overall. Like, the ones that were supposed to be entertaining were not entertaining.
There were a few. All right. Down to the wire. Super Bowl 51 featured the 25-point comeback from the New England Patriots, who were down 19 points in the fourth quarter and came back to beat Atlanta in overtime. The World Series That Game 7 was won by the Cubs in extra innings, ending a century-old drought that was unforgettable after the rain delay, too. Now, the Cavs, they won their first title by becoming the first team in NBA history to overcome a 3-1 finals deficit against the Golden State Warriors. And it wasn't all LeBron James. It was Kyrie and this three that said, bye-bye, Steph. And then Clemson. They won the college football playoff championship in dramatic fashion on the final play of the game, defeating Alabama in a rematch of last year's title game. So, George, the question is, what was the best championship game this year?
I don't think you can go wrong with any of them, to be honest with you. I mean, you're literally splitting hairs here, right? So what I would say is I went with the national championship game only because I feel like there isn't someone to blame in those situations. I thought those teams played as flawless as practically possible. Like, there wasn't a moment where I said, man, Nick Saban, he blew that, right? Whereas at the other games, I can say, well, this guy did this or this guy did that. We just talked about the Super Bowl. Draymond Green obviously cost his team at least one game, right? Potentially the series. So I just feel like there were mistakes made by the team that lost that could play into the result. These two teams, Alabama and Clemson, literally was who had the ball last because they played so well.
I think that, and you guys know that baseball is my favorite sport, and I'm going to be partial. And I feel that being in Cleveland to see the Cubs win and seeing this Game 7, which is one of the most epic Game 7s ever, and given the teams involved and the epic drought from both sides, 70 years, 107 on one side, and it had everything. It had a rain delay. It had a game-tying home run. It had extra innings. It had questionable managerial decisions. It had everyone criticizing from back and forth. It had small heroes like the 41-year-old catcher who's retiring, and just these things. I think there's nothing. I have never, and I have covered Super Bowl, just many things, and NBA championships. I've never seen a game like Game 7 of the 2016 World
We get to see the Super Bowl at home. You were there.
Yeah.
So where does it sit in terms of these other championships?
Definitely, most definitely #1 with me. I don't care that the Falcons didn't make the right decision that everyone else feels they should have made to actually give themselves a chance to win the game. What we witnessed that night was greatness. From the Patriots organization, from that coaching staff, to what Tom was able to do and his supporting cast was unbelievable. You cannot even write that into a movie script and have it play out that way again. Even in a movie, you can't even play a video game and be down by 25 playing Madden 17 and still come back. You can't do that.
You can if you don't run the ball.
You can't relive those situations.
You can if you have Tom Brady.
Listen, and for him to be able to do it in real life, man, dude, hats off, man. The dude is truly.
What was the locker
great.
room like at halftime there? Because you've been in that Patriots.
It's quiet, always quiet.
Really?
Yeah, the adjustments are being made. There's no hooping and hollering. There's no screaming. You know, you have Tom, you had Bill O'Brien back then. You had them getting together and seeing what we were going to do.
So it's the opposite of Nación ESPN. 'Cause as we go to break.